Hey guys, Mark W. Flockhart, going over some insurance advice for you. This is going to be a really simple one. We're going to talk about the three main categories of insurance. Everyone on the videos say there's five. Technically, there's like 12. So I'll do a three, they can do a five, and maybe one day we'll do a 12 if it's that interesting. So if you are following up with my most recent video, Insurance 101, that was like a year and a half ago, still relevant. So if you want to watch the whole 22-minute video about really what insurance is, what you need, the whole 9 yards, go ahead and check that out. Otherwise, if you like this, if you gotten informative, please share it, subscribe, like, all that fun stuff, comment if you have questions. So there's three pieces to insurance. So there's coverage for you, coverage for other people, and coverage for your car. We're talking about auto. The coverage for you is, or coverage for other people is liability. So if you crash into somebody's car, it's what you're liable for. You're liable to pay for their damages. So it'll cover property damage. It'll cover their car. If you hit their house, hit their mailbox, it's going to cover that repair or replacement. Part of that liability is bodily injury. And what bodily injury is, pretty simple. You injured somebody. So they're medically hurt. Now in some states, most states, this is going to be completely the same. There are like 9 or 10 different states that have like personal injury protection, so that's something a little bit separate. I've already made a video on no-fault insurance, so go ahead and check that out if you want to learn more about the personal injury protection and then what it does for you. So for the majority of the states, this is going to be bodily injury. Typically about 10 years ago, even today a little bit, the most common liability limit was 100-300 is what they called it. And what that meant was $100,000 per person, $300,000 per accident. So if I hit your car, you're injured, your buddy in the passenger seat is injured, and so my insurance is going to cover $100,000 per person in your car up to $300,000 total. Now the issue is there's been a lot of lawsuits in the past, expenses went up, doctor bills are higher, you spend one night in a medical facility, you could be $120,000 bill depending on what they're doing. So the most common today that I personally get with our agency is $250,500. If you injure somebody, it's going to cover $250,000 each person up to $500,000 per accident. Typically that's enough in most cases to protect somebody, and a lot of people don't realize that the cost of the $250,500 versus the $100,300 is so minor. I mean, it's almost pennies. So it's always better to look at that as an option. That's the first coverage. So the second piece is coverage for you. So if you hit me and I'm hurt, now I've got coverage for me and my family and friends like that. Typically your liability won't cover the people in your car because you're just covering anything you're liable for. Well, if they're liable, they're usually going to have enough coverage, hopefully, to cover your medical and your family's medical. If they don't, there's a couple pieces to this. There's med pay, which is a common piece where you can add personal medical to each person. So if I had 3 people in my car and I said I want a $5,000 med pay, then that means every person gets up to $5,000 per person. So no matter what, that coverage just kicks in. Then there's uninsured motorist. So if someone hits you and they have no insurance, they're uninsured. Those people are driving illegally, they hit you, they take off, they have no insurance, you never see them again, that's uninsured motorist. And that'll typically be the same thing as your liability. So you can pick 50, 100, 100, 300, 250, 500. So typically you would match it, so we would do a 250, 500. So each person in my car gets 250 a person, up to a total of 500,000. Then there's underinsured motorist. So if I feel like my medical could be more expensive and I want to protect me more, I could say, okay, if they carry less than what I want to carry, then mine's going to cover the difference. That way I don't have to deal with lawsuits, I don't have to go after the guy, I'll let all the insurance companies take care of it. So I'm going to take the underinsured motorist, that means they're underinsured compared to mine, and I'm going to carry those higher coverages. They might have the 100-300, and I carry the underinsured motorist, UIM they call it, at $250,500. When that maxes out that $100,000 per person, mine kicks in up to $250,000. And when theirs maxes out at $300,000 per accident, Mine maxes out at $500,000 per accident. So I'm definitely covered there. Most states that's really inexpensive to get, so definitely worth it to look at. Florida and all those higher risk states where there's a lot of uninsured motorists, you're going to pay an extra premium. So that's a big cost there. You just have to ask and find out what the differences are. Honestly, I'd say out of all of the policies I write, probably 95 to 98% of our policies all have those coverages. The 250, 500, they've got the uninsured and underinsured motorists. Then that's coverage for you, and then there's coverage for your vehicle. Now here's where people say there's 5 different coverages, because they separate the med pay, and they got liability, and they got all that other stuff, and then there's your car. There's 2 pieces, comprehensive and collision. Comprehensive is where in most cases the car's not moving. Anything out of your control, weather damage, you hit an animal, you can't control the animal, right? You hit them, someone vandalizes your car, someone steals your car, that's comprehensive. In most cases, cost-wise, it's not expensive to carry. So having a low deductible there isn't going to cost you an arm and a leg. Most commonly, most people do a $100 deductible. Some people do 0. I personally like the 100 because it kind of makes me think about the claim if I'm going to file it, or it also covers me if I have like glass damage or a windshield. At least I kind of am responsible, so I'm gonna have a small portion of that bill that I'm gonna pay. Then there's collision. So collision is just exactly what it sounds like. That's collision. So when someone says I want full coverage, they're telling you they want all 3 of these coverages. They want the coverage for you, coverage you and your family, coverage for other people, and they want coverage for their vehicle. That's full coverage. So now the collision portion, most people do about a $500 deductible. That means if I'm in an accident and it's my fault, that I'm going to pay $500 towards that deductible. They're going to cover whatever the rest of the value of my car is. Some people who want to save extra money will do a larger deductible, so they'll do a $1,000 deductible. Keep in mind, if you have an accident, you have to come up with that $1,000 before you get your car back. So will they start the repairs? Absolutely. 9 times out of 10, your car's going to go straight to the body shop. They're going to start working on it, and then when you go to pick it up, then you're going to pay that $1,000 deductible. Sometimes you can kind of make a deal with the mechanical shop where they might cut down some of your deductible. That's even a benefit. Otherwise, what I typically do if I have an accident, unless you have a specific mechanic that you want to work with, I just ask the insurance company where best is. Because 9 times out of 10, they usually just make it quicker. I'm not worried about it because it's completely covered. And that is the 3 parts of insurance. I hope this video was informative. If you liked it, thumbs up. Share it with anybody you know if they need to know about this stuff. Otherwise, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.